What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Skews Day to you. It's July 18th, 2023. I'm Trey Crowder. That's Mark Agee. What's up, Mark?
What's up, Trey? We're on our opposite sides
I
than usual.
know
It's going to throw me off if Matt
it
doesn't
is.
say
It's throwing
it.
me off, too.
There we
Thank
go.
you, Matt. Appreciate that. I thought the same thing. As soon as I popped up, I was like, oh, I don't like this. This is
Yeah.
all wrong. Can't have it.
Yeah. It's
Um,
uncomfortable. Yeah. Doing good, man. Got a fun show. It feels like everybody and their mom's on strike right now.
mhm.
Some money hungry wolves down to the rich. So we're going to talk about various people and what they're fighting for. Talking about, among others, hotel workers, SAG, UPS drivers, and a little scrappy Waffle House that could, which is tugged at my heartstrings. Before we get to that, a couple things before we get to the show. Big legal news. And by that, I'm referring to, of course, Las Vegas PD served a search warrant related to Tupac's murder. They're finally getting around to that 30 years later. um,
That chick
uh,
from that CBS show on it, Cold Case. You watch Cold Case?
something like that. But it's always been a weird one because like everybody knows who killed Tupac, and that guy's dead. He was killed like a year later in retaliation for it. It's a guy by the name of Orlando Baby Lane Anderson. So maybe, I don't know, somebody snitched and trying to get a lighter charge for an accessory by turning in an accessory or something. I don't know. No, but of course, the big legal news for today, I guess, is Trump's announced he's received a target letter from the special counsel, Jack Smith, related to the January 6th probe. Um, Nothing really to make of it yet because the charging documents aren't released. Just everybody's
Right.
reaction to it's a little weird. Jack Smith went to lunch at Subway, and CNN did like half an hour on it about analyzing his body language, how he was showing strength by getting lunch at Subway like it was a regular day. Just everybody
Yeah, I don't know.
going
I don't know if
fucking
maybe that's a man of the people type move or what, but it kind of makes me question his taste a little bit, frankly. And I mean, the food taste. I mean, I'm not a Subway fan. You a Subway fan?
I mean, yeah, I dig it. If I have to get fast food, it's usually going to be Subway.
Can't do it. There's other. You can get other better sandwiches, but you actually like, you know, a little more health. Like I go to like Jersey Mike's, get the big
Oh
Kahuna,
yeah,
with double
yeah,
meat or whatever. Like that's what
yeah.
I do. Yeah.
I guess if I have a choice between like a Jersey Mike's or Subway and a Panera Bread, I'd probably go Panera. That's Jersey Mike's second. But yeah, it was sort of like maybe he just went to lunch. Like maybe it wasn't signaling anything, but like if cable news is so fucking obsessed with Trump that like everything he does is just fascinating to them. I mean, I get like a president maybe being indicted for trying to overthrow the government is a big deal, but like you don't know anything yet, and he's not indicted yet, so you could just like spend 2 minutes on it and move on.
Is there still? There's a Georgia one
Yeah.
pending still, right? So then, and after this one, and then that one, it's funny, Kevin. Like, count on your fingers the number of presidential felony indictments or whatever. But is that expected to be the last one whenever that comes down, or if it comes
Uh,
down? And
Well, I mean, these things are spiraling. Like another story from today, the Michigan Attorney General charged fake electors in efforts to overturn the 2020 election. So that could, in theory, touch Trump, but who knows? That was a really interesting one, actually, because it charged 16 people. These are all big-time Republicans. Some pretty big names, including, let me find their names here. Right. All right. Say RNC committee woman named Kathy Burden, a former state party co-chair named Michonne Maddock, and a guy named Stan Grove. These are like 60, 70, 80-year-old white people. So their day in court is going to be fun. It's not something you see very often in this country. So they're charged with 8 felony counts each, including forgery and conspiracy, and something like conspiracy to commit uttering, which I didn't know was a thing, but apparently that's what it called when you produce a false document. That's called uttering. Something I learned today. Each of these counts can carry like 14 years each. They won't get that much. If they get convicted, I imagine they'll get like, some sort of slap on their wrist, unless they flip on somebody bigger, in which case then it gets interesting. But what they said happened was these people met in the basement of the Republican Party headquarters and signed multiple certificates claiming they were duly elected and qualified electors for the president, vice president of the United States for Michigan. The basement part's important, but like you got to know you're up to something shitty when you're meeting in a secret basement.
mm-hmm.
But like,
Yeah, could be a D&D game or something, but probably not with these people. Probably something slightly more nefarious.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. I have some questions, but go ahead.
So Michigan law requires that you meet in the state capitol to be official electors. So the fact they met in the basement proves when they signed the documents saying they had submitted, they were the duly elected electors met they knew they were supposed to be in the Capitol to do that, so they're automatically like they're black letter law guilty, right? They knew they were lying, and we know they knew they were lying because according to other people's testimony, they planned to hide in the Capitol building overnight. That was the first plan, to be in the Capitol so they wouldn't be lying. And then when they had to resort to the Republican Party basement, they told each other not to bring their cell phones so they couldn't track their locations. So
yeah, it seems a little shady. So they signed these documents falsely alleging to be qualified electors for president because they were going to vote or elect Trump, even though he had not won the actual stuff. Okay, but then that didn't happen.
Well, they did. They did everything they could. They submitted it to the National Archive.
Okay,
but the fatal flaw in the problem in their plan was to follow through on it having to be successful. Their criminal conspiracy hinged upon Mike Pence's bravery.
Yeah.
So, or if you want to look at it, lack of integrity. Like they wanted Mike Pence to be as crooked as they were, and it didn't. You can spin it whichever way you want, but I didn't. Mike Pence. I think he knows he wouldn't do well in prison, so I don't think he was ever going to hang tough with the rest of you. But yeah, so it's possible I could touch Trump. Yeah, but about the Georgia case, Trump tried to go straight to the Georgia Supreme Court to stop Fani Willis in Atlanta from being able to indict him. And it was like a unanimous decision saying, no, we can't do this. But their logic was basically like, you can't skip straight to the Supreme Court. You got to go through the process. You haven't demonstrated any reason why you can't go through the process. So he was trying to get special treatment and then didn't get it. But another January 6th related story that just like stuck in my brain because it kind of defines our fucking weird times living in a techno dystopia with all these baby boomers also at the same time. A TikTok account dedicated to worshiping Judy Hopps, who is the bunny cop from Zootopia, successfully identified a January 6th protester on a conservative dating app who admitted to bringing a hacksaw to murder AOC and Joe Biden. So Zootopia and the bunny cop named Judy Hopps.
So this furry who devotes their online presence to worshiping the cop from Zootopia was on a conservative dating app and met a guy that was like, I'm assuming it's a guy, met a guy that was like,
it was a guy.
Yeah. Like, oh, this is a bit much. Like I don't know, if you're going to be put off by somebody wanting to murder AOC, I maybe don't even be on a conservative dating app in the first place. You know what I mean? Because I feel like,
I've read
probably got some slim pickings over there. But you know, if the standard is cartoon bunny rabbits,
I think this.
Wait, are these two guys?
Yeah, one was a guy. The Judy Hopps person was a guy pretending to be a woman who catfished a guy on a conservative dating app.
Okay,
but it was the quickest catfishing in history because the messages go like this. Oh, it was like the first message. Oh, hey, I see you were at the January 6th coup. Is that right? And the guy goes, oh, it wasn't a coup. It was a glorious day. And I was there with a hacksaw to overthrow the government and kill OC.
That's so funny. Like, it didn't ring any bells in his head at all. Like, someone start with that line. So, random question here apropos of nothing. Is it true you were at January 6th? And then he just, let me elaborate on the details of the nefarious criminal plot that I hatched before I left and the murder weapon I brought with me.
Dude, I think I could say like this. I'm a pretty terrible liar and I can't act for shit. But when it comes to these dipshits, I think I could be a great undercover cop because they just voluntarily confess to everything.
Right.
They think like not taking their cell phone with them is going to let them get away with the crime. So so as far as Trump being a random fucking shitty criminal, this story was also from today. Trump is hoarding Israeli antiquities at Mar-a-Lago. So Israel loaned some relics for display at the White House 4 years ago, including like ancient ceramic candles, and they're only supposed to keep them for like a week or two. And the Trump White House never gave them back, and now they're just at Mar-a-Lago. It is like shoplifted ancient Israeli candles.
Yeah. He just kept everything from the White House. It's like if it entered the White House while he was president, he was like, "That's mine now. I'm taking that with me." It's like, sir, that's on loan from the Louvre. It's like, no, they gave it to me. They said I was tremendous, best president ever. They wanted me to have it. Put it by the toilet.
Yeah, I like. Has anybody checked to see if he like took the what did what's the desk, the fucking fancy desk, the Resolute desk made from the shipwreckage or whatever? He probably just took fucking everything that wasn't nailed down. I just like, can you at least get him for shoplifting? Like, what
Right.
are you guys waiting for? He stole stuff. He stole Israeli artifacts from the White House. Yeah.
So are they gonna like? Are they gonna get them back? They're gonna get their candles back? Nobody knows.
Nobody. What do you like? They're so dumbfounded what to do. It's like
Right.
if you're a poor person who steals a box of diapers from fucking CVS, everybody knows exactly what to do.
Right.
But if you're a rich guy that steals ancient candles,
From the White
everybody's
House.
like, yeah, from the White House, like, give him back, and he goes no, and you're like, fuck, we're out of ideas.
Right. Yeah. What do we do? Start a war? He's not even the president anymore. Yeah. God damn, dude.
Yeah.
He's something else. But all right, let's get into it. With us, as always, is producer Matt. This is Weekly Skews. Before we continue, I, of course, want to remind y'all of a few things. Number one, if you'd like to see me perform live, and you should, go to TreyCrowder.com. Check out my upcoming tour dates. I'm going to be near my old stomping grounds in Kentucky this weekend. Bowling Green on Friday, Lexington Saturday, Louisville on Sunday. Bowling Green, not an hour away from where I grew up in Clay County, Tennessee. So I'm looking forward to that. And I got a bunch of other cities coming up as we go through the rest of the year. TreyCrowder.com. Also, number two, if you from Trey stand-up terms in the world of whatever, you can watch my shut up, Mark. You can watch my special Damn Boy. I'm good talk. Me talk words good. Me talk words good on stage microphone. YouTube channel. Watch it if you want to. I hope you would. Now, number three, if you enjoy this program and would like to show your support, you can do so by signing up on Patreon. You can go to weeklyskews.com/more, or you can go on Patreon and look me up. Either way works. $5 a month gets you access to full-length bonus episodes. We're going to do one later this week. We cover things we don't get to or that comes up in between Skews days or just whatever we'd like to talk about. We also do Q&As on there. It's a lot of fun, so we hope you'll check it out and support the show in the process. Sign up on Patreon, get some more Skews in your life. Now, as for the show tonight, as Mark mentioned up top, it is a hot strike summer. That's right. Record-breaking numbers in both temperature and employees striking and demanding they be paid what they're worth. Mark and I are involved. We're out here in Hollywood. That's a part of it, but it's not just Hollywood. Many, many other industries and employees are being affected as well, and we're going to talk about it because we're a power to the people, pro-labor type of program. But first, we begin with the Daily Dumbass. Matt, graphic, please. Tonight's DD, any Asians or Jews who died of COVID without realizing that actually they were immune to it the whole time. This according to who else? RFK Jr.
And we need to talk about bioweapons. Well, I know a lot now about bioweapons because I've been doing a book on it for the past 2.5 years, and you know, the technology that we now have to develop these microbes, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure, genetic differentials among different races of the receptors of the ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people.
Right,
the people who are most immune are.
So he's taking. This guy is such a poor communicator. I'm not going
I
to
know,
make him
dude.
his
That's
voice,
what I was about to say.
His voice is like a medical condition, but his brain works fine. He just can't string a sentence
Right.
together.
I was going to say the same thing. It's like, dude, it's like pulling teeth listening to this guy talk. I swear to God. It's like what a gifted orator. And like you said, the way his voice, that's not even what I mean. I don't even mean that. That's its own like separate issue. Like you said, that's a medical thing. I'm not even ragging on that. I mean like the words he chooses and the way he strings them together and everything is pretty
So
brutal. But anyways,
if you
this
had a hard time,
COVID-19 affects black people and white people predominantly, and the people most immune to it, Asians and Jews, according to him.
this like world he lives in. One, he says that like I'm an expert on bioweapons. I've been studying it closely for 2.5 years. No scientific training or anything. He's just been
Right.
studying bioweapons. I'm not familiar with there being a targeted racial bioweapon. I don't even know how that would work because there aren't really genetic differences significantly between the races like that. Like there's some more common medical conditions like, Jewish people have a hard time digesting milk, and you got sickle cell in like Black America and Black
Right.
populations. But overall, like doing that would be difficult. Plus, a lot of Jewish people, like China and Israel, for all their other problems, did hardcore fucking shit to protect their people from COVID. And the idea that Chinese people weren't dying of COVID is ridiculous. They
Right.
agree that they had lower fatality rates because they were on like stringent lockdowns for months at a time. But they were absolutely panicked about it. People like there were stories about people throwing their dogs off fucking balconies because there were rumors that they got spread by dogs. So like the idea that like Jewish people and Chinese people. The only thing I think of them teaming up on is both going out for Chinese food on Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
But like I've never. This is such a weird conspiracy theory. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway,
Well, listen. So, I think in this world of lunatics, the explanation is actually pretty simple, or at least the origin of how this would work in their brains is that like. We know it was invented in China, right?
Mm-hmm.
They think it was invented in China, COVID,
Mm-hmm.
right? So obviously the Chinese would want to make it impact the other Chinese less, right? And also Jews control everything,
Right?
including anything up to the level of like a global pandemic. Obviously, there's going to be some Jews behind that because that's what they do. Like
it's never the good stuff, though. If Jews control everything, why don't you give them credit for the good shit?
I don't know. They say they control the weather, and if you live in Southern California, a lot of times you're like, "Thanks, Jews. This is great."
Yeah.
And I'm saying a coincidence. A lot of Jews live in Southern California, and the weather just happens to be great here. I'm just saying, open your eyes, sheeple. That's just a joke. Also, it's hot as hell right now. But
yes,
yeah, I think it's that's about it. I think like it came from China. Jews do everything. So
right.
Chinese and Jews, whatever, equals COVID.
It's amazing how every conspiracy theory, right wing, left wing, or whatever, always ends up back blaming it on Jewish people. I don't understand that particular brain disease. But the only thing I'll have to say about RFK, forget this funny story about him, is like I'll never forgive like CNN doing these soft focus features about how jacked he is a couple weeks ago. Like the 30% of Democrats who like just see his name and see Kennedy and are like, I might vote for that guy.
Yeah.
But CNN knows what the fuck he's about. He's been the public eye as an anti-vaxxer for like 20 years. So like, he's always been a lunatic. His family doesn't like him or respect him. And CNN knew that and still was like, hey, here's a cool new shiny thing because we want to pretend that politics is more interesting than it is. But that same dinner he was at where he did that shit, and he did a long rant about COVID being a Jewish conspiracy or whatever, and then he goes, by the way, this is off the record. There's all reporters sitting around him also recording him. That's not how it works, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'll just read this. RF Kennedy Jr. press dinner explodes in war of words and farting. So I'm not sure if the conspiracy theory video came before or after the farting, but I want to read.
I think it was after the farting. I think.
Oh, really? So they kept having the dinner after the fart. Okay. When you say farting, it was a planned disruptive fart. Try to explain how I got there.
It was a fart of protest.
So page 6 regrets, this is from New York Post. Page 6 regrets to report that a press dinner to boost Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s presidential campaign descended into a full bout of screaming and polemic farting Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
This is at a place called Tony's in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. It was a shouting match over climate change between two old guys. The two old guys.
Wait a minute. Hold on. This was in Manhattan. I thought this was in London. I thought this was in the UK this whole time.
Oh, was it? Maybe it's Upper East Side of London. Sorry, I just saw Upper East Side and assumed.
I think because I first saw it reported in like not the Daily Mail, but some other British thing, and also like I know the people involved, the players involved, I believe, are Brits. The only reason I even remember that is because it felt so like. I sent to you guys in the text thread, and Drew was like, smartest country in the world, baby, talking about it because it feels very American, a story. It's like, political fundraiser erupts into fart match. And I thought the same thing. I remember being surprised to find that it was in the UK, but maybe I misread it. Maybe I was wrong about that. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Let's just ignore that for a second because I don't think it matters much.
Well, it's important to me that the
Okay.
stuff that's this dumb also happens in the UK. Not that that's surprising to anybody. I guess people know they're dumb too nowadays, but you know what I mean.
No, this story says it's New Yorker in New York. Sorry.
Okay. Well, never mind.
So the two guys involved were a guy named Doug Deckert, who was host of the event, and Anthony Hayden Guest, who happens to be Christopher Guest's brother.
Yes.
All right. So somebody asked RFK Jr. a question about climate change. So Deckert just screams out, interrupts the question, "The climate hoax." All right. So, and then Anthony Hayden Guest, who, according to page 6, appeared to have been sleeping happily for most of the dinner, was roused by the abrupt rumpus. This definitely sounds like it was written by a British guy. Although Hayden Guest tells us he was not asleep. I was just thinking, he told us. Deckert continued to scream loudly about the climate change scam, while Hayden Guest peppered him with verbal volleys from across the table, calling him variously fucking insane and insignificant. Here, it seems, Deckert sensed the need for a new rhetorical tack and let rip a loud, prolonged fart while yelling, as if to underscore his point, "I'm farting."
Mm-hmm.
The room
it's a little redundant, you know.
Yeah.
If it really was a loud, prolonged fart, there's no reason. Really, you lessen the impact of the fart, I would say, by yelling over your own fart. Let your butt do the talking, you know, if that's what you're... If that's your attempt here, if that's the bright idea. I mean, look, this dude was screaming in rage, and I think a fart he realized I could fart right now. And so he did, because fuck these people. I don't respect them. I'm going to, literally fart in all their faces. I'm just saying that because I don't think he summoned a fart in a show of protest.
Oh, I think it was like a By the Power of Grayskull thing, maybe.
Yes. Yeah, right. I don't want. I don't want to give him that credit. Is what I'm saying. They're talking about. It's like, oh, he needed a new rhetorical tack. I don't think he was like, you know what'll really play here is if I fart. I think he was just pissed off and yelling. He was like, I need to fart. I'm going to fart in front of everybody.
Oh, no, I think no. It reads to me like he definitely was like, this will underscore my point, and let rip their loud one on purpose.
I know, but you can't, Mark. You think he farted at will? Meaning he brought forth a fart is what you think happened. That's what you think happened.
I think he had to do it and used it as to make his point.
Right, because he got love, because he's already mad. He's in an argument with somebody, and he's like, he feels a fart in there, and he's like, I know what I'll do. I'll fart.
Yeah, I think that's what he did. And
right, okay.
Else, let me read this to you, Trey. Everyone else in the room understood what was happening. The room was stunned and seemingly unsure about whether Deckert was farting at Hayden Guest personally or at the very notion of global warming.
Right.
Everyone there knew it was a purposeful fart.
I know it was a purposeful fart. I don't think. Are you saying that he if you decide I want to fart on these people right now, you can't do it unless you need to fart.
Right.
Okay.
What we can do is not do what a normal person would do, is try to let it out slowly and silently.
I know, but he happened to have a fart on him.
I don't know what we're fucking arguing about right now, Trey. I don't know. I'm lost.
About
the guy farted. The guy farted, and this is what RFK Jr. deserves. So that's the end of it. Let this guy's fucking campaign die.
Yeah, I agree. I just thought. Do you know who Le Pétomane is?
No.
He was a French fartiste in the 19th century, and he could fart however he wanted to fart at any given time. He could fart on command always, and was famous, world renowned for it. Right. Mm-hmm. And I thought for a second you were saying that this dude had those powers, and I was just saying no. I don't.
No, I was never saying that.
Case. Okay.
He would not be at this dinner. He'd be on Broadway.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, anyway, good Lord. Well, that was fun. So yeah. Jesus Christ. All right. Our first honorable mention for Daily Dumbass is anybody who thought politicians couldn't fuck women the right way for a change. This shit's wild.
It's a crazy ass political ad.
Yeah.
Do you have a condom?
Yeah. No! Sorry, you can't use those.
What are you talking about? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're banning birth control.
This is our decision, not yours. Get out of our bedroom.
I won the last election. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just gonna watch and make sure you don't do anything illegal.
All right, so this is a complicated ballot referendum in Ohio that this ad is attempting to make really, really simple. So there's a proposition on the ballot in this August special election that if you vote yes, if 51% of the people vote yes, it changes the state the state law to where it requires 60% of people to change the Constitution. Right now, to get a constitutional amendment, it's 51. It's 51 majority, so 50.1%, 50% plus one. Pro-choice advocates, activists have successfully or almost successfully gotten through the process of getting a constitutional amendment on the ballot in November to make abortion a constitutional right in Ohio.
Right.
So Republican ratfuckers rushed through an earlier amendment that would make it harder to pass a constitutional amendment.
Right.
All right. And this is all very typical, like terms of service type legislation that Republicans use to be very confusing when it's very straightforward. If they raise the threshold to get a constitutional amendment to protect your reproductive rights, Republicans are coming for your fucking, not just abortion, but your birth control. Now, there's a lot of people have tried to spin this and say that this has nothing to do with the other. But let me read a quote here from a Republican Secretary of State named Frank LaRose. He admitted last month, quote, "This is 100% about keeping a radical pro-abortion amendment out of our Constitution." But this is all pretty perverse. The idea that 50.1% of the people will be able to vote to make it so 60% of the people can't make a law. Do you know what I'm saying? It's inherently anti-democratic, small d democratic.
Right.
And the fact they're doing this in a hurry and doing it in a special election is going to have much lower turnout, or in theory would have much lower turnout, is fucking shady as shit. Also, a major supporter of this is the guy we talked about before, Richard Wheeline, an Illinois resident, the guy who inherited the Schlitz brewing fortune, and he doesn't even live in fucking Ohio. He's just doing this shit to screw with the women of Ohio because he's a fucking asshole. The good news is that people are already voting on this, and turnout for this special election is way higher than anticipated. So people understand it and they're voting. And Matt said, coincidentally, I know this will be logged on to do the show, but his organization is working on this, and they're seeing an overwhelming amount of yard signs to vote no on this, which is the correct side on this. So if you live in Ohio, make sure you vote before August 8th, I think it is, and vote no on Proposition 1.
It's also like
you
said, it's anti-democratic and everything. And it's like, it's kind of just inherently acknowledging, it's them acknowledging, like, so we know for sure that the majority of people who live in this state that we represent are going to want to, you know, codify abortion rights or whatever. Like we know that that's popular in the majority. So we've got to do something to make it to where it requires more than just a simple majority, because, you know, the minority should rule, because in this case we're morally right on the matter, and the Bible says, and whatever else. But it's like they're supposed to reflect the will of the people, and they seem to know what the will of the people is and are actively working to subvert it or to fuck it over. Also, this, I gotta say, that ad, I mean, that's pretty good shit in my opinion. That's like you said, makes it simple. It's very memorable. Also, I've seen it pop up, and it's like gone viral and stuff. Like whoever came up with that ad really knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. So
people like seeing hot half-naked people. Who knew?
Also, it's like, you know, it's not unfair. You know what I mean? Like,
right?
It's not an unfair.
It's very. A lot of Republicans have publicly announced they're against contraception now. Like, it's like, so yeah, condoms could be next in Ohio, and it's not. It might be rhetorically strong, but it's not even approaching bullshit or a lie.
Right.
But there's something like perverse, like weird to this, because like we live in like a liberal democracy. There is a balance between like majority decides and individual rights, right? But like the classic way to do that, like on the 60s when the civil rights movement, is okay, a majority of people would vote to be racist if we let them, but black people have the individual right to like lives and liberty and being able to eat at your lunch counter. All right. So this is like the opposite, where it's like, even though the majority wants abortion rights, they're like, but no, we have the individual liberty to take away your rights. We have the opposite of rights.
Right.
It's like, it's fucking weird. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Hot strike summer, eh? We've been talking about, I feel like we talk about pretty much any major strike that comes up, but there's a lot of them going on right now. And like I said earlier, it's not just in Hollywood either. Last week, SAG, after the Actors Union, joined the Writers Guild, which has been on strike since May, and striking against the big studios. But there's a lot of other stuff in the works for labor right now as well.
Yeah, I tried to add up all the different labor actions right now just in America. There's other ones happening in Canada, Italy, and the UK as well. But just in America, I tried to figure there's at least something like 600,000 people on strike or about to be on strike. This is compared to like in 2022, there were 23 major strikes that included 120,000 workers. So we're already like 5 times last year. And if you're wondering, there's about 165 million people in the American workforce. So 600,000 is not like, it's not a 1%, but it's like 0.5% or something like it. It's a significant amount of workers. It feels like we're something like a slow rolling general strike that everyone's going to get around to.
Yeah. What do you think about the idea of a general strike or whatever? I don't think we've ever talked about that.
It'd be hard to pull off in America,
right?
Mainly because people are a lot of people are like, when you're gearing up for a strike, it takes a while, and you prepare your membership for it by having them save their money and figure out where people are going to get food and how people are going to like keep their houses and stuff. To have everybody do it at once probably isn't feasible, and usually you do that to like stop mass mobilization for a war or something. So I don't know if we could do it just for like wage increases. I mean, I would happily encourage anybody who tried to organize it, but I don't think Americans can be on the same page where we're mass during a pandemic. So I don't see us getting. And plus, like the rhetoric around these, one of the reasons I like try to talk about them every time is because all media coverage of strikes is so fucking through the lens of like people with money who just don't want to upset the apple cart. And if you're being charitable, if you're not being charitable, it's like they're being mouthpieces for corporate overlords. But they either way, it's not typically fair in my mind. So it's one reason I like to talk about them. But so numbers, who's on strike right now? By my count, 165,000 actors, 12,000 writers, hotel employees are on strike, grad students, healthcare workers. And the big one, maybe starting at the end of the month, 340,000 UPS workers organized under the Teamsters might be walking out if they don't get a better deal. And that would be the largest strike against a single employer in U.S. history. And this doesn't count the people going to be put out of work by the after effects of the strike, which that's bad. But that doesn't mean people should strike. It means corporations come to the table sooner so it has less effects on everybody, including their workers, their bottom line, and the people affected by these labor actions. Because nothing people are asking for is unreasonable. Like UPS drivers want air conditioning in their trucks.
Right.
It's 140 degrees in the back of those motherfuckers, and some of them pass out and die. Right. This is not like unreasonable shit. This is reasonable stuff from profitable companies. But I was thinking like big picture, like while this stuff is happening right now, like the economy is restructuring itself because coming out of COVID, people are just sort of fed up with how things have been going and how they got treated by their employers. It feels like to me is part of it. And the only way progress is always another side of pain. It feels like in every instance. And I saw like a bunch of economists arguing online this weekend about how the American economy is actually really good right now, and why don't the general people generally understand that? And there's lots of reasons, because like for most people, it's always plenty fine, but they see consumer costs are up. And if you're among the 90% of people who were always employed, unemployment going from 10% to 4% because 6% people got jobs doesn't feel any different to you. You just see the prices go up. Right.
Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, everything's more expensive. The cost of living is outrageous or whatever. It's like, okay, plenty of people are working, but people aren't getting, paid enough still. And, in a lot of places, like in fucking Los Angeles, people can't afford to live or whatever. So like, of course, they're not all going to be like, popping bottles because the Dow's been up or whatever, or any of that shit,
My only concern from a national political perspective is people will blame the wrong people for it. But strike means you're pointing your anger in the right direction. It's like the economy is rolling. I can look at the numbers. I can look at your profit statements. I know you're making fucking money, but I'm making less than I used to compared to my rent increases. You got to give me some of that. All right. It's pretty straightforward. But like humanity's been through this moment before, and people kind of reacted the same way. I found this article from a couple of years ago, what the Black Death's labor shortage can tell us about our own. So basically, after the Black Plague, the people who survived it demanded huge wage increases, which made sense.
What I didn't even know that was that from like from one gooseneck to two goosenecks a week. or what?
They had money. They had
Like,
money back then, right?
yeah,
It wasn't,
but like
it was
peasants,
caveman times.
but like people doing like hard, or, like labor, like day-to-day workers, whatever. I didn't know they even got, giving them a
Yeah.
half a sixpence or whatever, maybe.
Yeah. Even
Which
if you're paid in potatoes, double my potato ration.
yeah, right, yeah, for sure.
So about the plague wiped about 30 to 50% of Europe's population. So the peasants who survived realized they had more power. And so they demanded like double or triple whatever they'd earned before the plague. All right. So nobody here is asking for double or triple. They're asking for like a few dollars an hour raise or a few percentage points. But the people I wanted to talk about first, the 600,000 people in strike includes 5 Waffle House workers who walked out on a 3-day strike over the weekend. This is in Columbia, South Carolina. I just want to say these people have way more fucking moxie than I do. And I just admire the gumption here. Like, and I hope they get everything they want. But so
Bro,
the same day, part of what they're striking for, everybody knows the memes and stuff of the stories about like crazy fights you see at the Waffle House. One of the things they're asking for is to have a security guard there, not just on weekend nights. And the woman who organized the strike said the same day she delivered a letter of demands to management, belligerent customers poured salt and sugar into go cups and threw them at her across the restaurant. So
yeah, dude, it gets wild in a Waffle House, man. People who work in Waffle Houses, they see some shit.
that's like,
they often don't take no shit either, though, for the record, usually. Like,
right.
Most people don't want to fuck with a Waffle House employee. I mean, I know.
That's what I was about to say is like, who should know not to fuck with people that work at a Waffle House is the people that run Waffle House.
Right.
But they're not just complaining about violent customers. It's also understaffing, unwanted charges taken out of their paychecks, and working conditions that employees blame for landing them in the emergency room. We're talking like the kitchen being too hot and shit. But also like the understaffing stuff. One woman said she worked a 10-hour shift as the only server on the floor with no breaks, and she got a bladder infection because she can go to the bathroom. One of the things they're complaining about is like Waffle House charges them out of their paycheck for meals, even if they don't eat the meals or take their meal breaks. So what they want to do is
horse shit, dude.
Stop being charged for meals they're not eating. What they're asking to do, because they're so broke, is to be allowed to not be financially penalized for skipping meals and bringing lunch from home. Right. This is also fucking dystopian. This one woman, she said one of the reasons she was striking is like a guy with a gun threatened her over an order of hash browns, and she was like, "Dang, I'm finna die over some hash browns." And I just want to congratulate this woman not only straight for getting finna in a major newspaper. I love this lady. But one of the things you can always come up against a strike is like the reporter was asking people that were coming to eat at the restaurant what they thought about it. And some old guy was smoking a cigarette watching the commotion and reported that the workers told the reporter that the workers on strike were, quote, ungrateful. They don't look at the big picture for the company, this fucking guy said. You know what? Fuck this guy. Fuck, these are people who are talking about having to be on food stamps despite working full-time jobs, or people pull a gun on them and they can't go to the bathroom. This guy tells them to be grateful to the company. I can't wrap my mind around that. But another bystander chanted in support, told him to stand their ground. So be the second old guy, not the first old guy. So yeah. That's a little strike I wanted to talk about, and I wish it was, like, I don't think a lot of people heard about it. I saw other Waffle House workers saying they hadn't heard about it. So
I saw a video, and I don't know if it was from this. Were there multiple? Is there any kind of larger Waffle House thing going on, or is it just this one store? Yeah, and I saw a video of an older lady that worked at Waffle House. Then I assume it was from this strike. Was getting shared around. It was her talking about how like she'd worked for him for so long and all the shit she'd seen and all this stuff. It was moving. She did a good job. But
yeah, it's a Southern institution, man. Pay these people. I don't look at Waffle House's profit statements, but I bet you they're doing fine. They keep opening more stores. They never close early unless there's a hurricane. So on to the UPS strike. So I don't think this strike's going to last long. Everyone sort of agrees that there's going to be a deal. It might not even be a strike. The deal's up to 31st, I think, the contract. One of the things they're fighting over is, and they basically have agreed already. The union wants to get rid of a 2-tier wage system that pays people less to work on weekends somehow. It sounds backwards to me. And getting the air conditioning in vehicles. UPS, to their credit, has agreed finally to put air conditioning in the back of those trucks. Again, I guess to be 140 degrees back there sometimes. And this woman said that was talking about how one of her coworkers died of heat stroke in a delivery truck after delivering his last parcel. And that fucking depressed me. If I'm going to die, please let it be at the beginning of my UPS shift.
Yeah.
But here's another headline on this, which sort of frames how the media just sort of thinks strikes are annoying. As a Vox headline, UPS strike would be worse than you think. A 10-day UPS strike would cost the economy more than $7 billion. It'd be the costliest work stoppage in at least a century, according to a new study by Anderson Economic Group. Yeah, I don't fucking care about the economy if people are dying in the back of their trucks.
It's also like, and I said this I made a video about all the strike stuff earlier today, and I said this and that, like, because I saw this headline too about it costing the economy $7 billion. And it's like, oh, wow, well, sounds to me like those UPS employees are pretty important then. Like, if only there was some way we could put a number on the type of value that these people have to, you know, the company and the country at large, right? But
how many dollars do you think the economy would lose total if the entire C-suite at UPS took 10 days off, Dre?
I know. I said that too. I said I didn't say the whole C-suite, but I said not for nothing. I think if all of those employees kept doing their jobs, but the CEO of UPS effed off for a month, pretty sure the trucks would still run on time and nobody would fucking notice, right? Yeah.
And I get that, like, look, somebody has to be in charge, right? I get that. That person's going to know something that the market has decided should be rewarded. And, you know, yada, 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 they work too, whatever. Now, I'm not saying, but they're getting super fucking rich. And I'm just saying, like, I just thinking about, like, you ever been a boss, Trey? Were you a supervisor at DOE?
No, not really. I was like a team lead kind of, but I didn't officially have people underneath me, you know. I mean, I had to shepherd Corey and Drew's asses around for a few years, you know what I mean? No, besides that, no.
Yeah. I was like, when I first started being put in charge of people, been head writer in a few writers' rooms, and it's like, I think the most employees ever had at once was 8. But like, I always thought of leadership as like an act of service, kind of. Where like, I'm going to these boring meetings so you guys don't have to. When the boss asks where this work is, I'm gonna take the hit for you, right? I always thought that was what part of being a boss was. Like in the military, you lead from the front because if we're all gonna die, you got to go first, motherfucker, if you want to get us into this jam, right? But these people, it's the exact opposite. They just extract from the workers and don't want to give anything back. Like,
right. Yeah, it's like you said, it's not that I get that, like, right. I know there can be good CEOs and they do shit and they bring value to the company too, but not to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars and exponentially more than the people who are doing the actual day-to-day work of whatever that company is, whatever industry they're in. Like that is fucking ridiculous. And that's the reality of like all of corporate America right now. So
I don't begrudge you having a big boat. I begrudge you buying the boat before you give your workers health insurance.
Right. Yeah.
Give them health insurance first, then see if you can afford the fucking boat. That's the complaint here.
Right.
So I saw this UPS driver video. This guy, he was responding to like a TikTok. I guess he's a UPS influencer on TikTok, which I didn't know that was a thing, but shout out this guy. He's a good looking guy. But he was responding to like some comment. It was like, I can't believe you guys are going to strike when you make $42 an hour to deliver boxes. And he was like, well, we're not striking to get more than 42. We're going to get more than 42 if that's not why. But $42 an hour is about 85 grand a year, if you're wondering. But his point was like, I'm not going to argue with you about that. No one argues about what the CEOs fucking deserve, right? One, not doing that. But he was making the point that we're not actually striking for me. I'm striking for my union brothers who are part-time, who's only getting $16 an hour, and we're going to get them up. And if I have to lose 2 weeks of work so they can afford to like live a decent life, that's what we're going to do. And I was like, solidarity. Why do Americans need to have solidarity? Like I'm suffering so someone else for a little bit, so someone else can be as successful as I am or close to it. Why is that such a fucking foreign concept?
I don't know. And in fact, for a lot of people in this country, unfortunately, it goes the exact opposite direction. For a lot of people, it's like, if I'm suffering or if I've been railroaded or fucked over, then everyone else should be too, or else it's not fair, Yeah, it's really discouraging.
By the way, UPS posted an adjusted profit of nearly $14 billion in 2022. And this guy was like, their profits are going up. My pay is going to go up. That's the end of the conversation. Like, it's like, we're not talking about stealing from the company here. Profits, by the way, are after the CEOs pay themselves the bonuses. Those are labor expenses also. So like the shareholders are making money. The executives are making money. The workers can make money too. That's how it's supposed to work. And by the way, UPS's CEO is a lady named Carol Tomei, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm glad this is this type of shit's happening under Biden, because if this many workers are striking under like Trump or DeSantis or some other Republican ghoul, they call up the National Guard to shoot at fucking picketers. Biden, like UPS union, has asked him to stay out of this strike and not step in and try to mediate, because he's like we can handle this, don't worry about it. I'm hoping he'll do that, but at a minimum he won't send in Pinkertons in the National Guard. This lady named Carol Tomei, talking about leadership as active service, she said all the right things in this 2020 interview with the New York Times. She said, for a long time, I was sort of a Milton Friedman person. Milton Friedman's a famous right-wing psychoeconomist. She's trying to do a mea culpa here. The purpose of the corporation is to create value for the shareholder. I'm very much, that was Milton Friedman. But now I'm very much the belief that if you take care of the needs of all stakeholders, you actually create value for the share price. And taking care of the needs of all the stakeholders includes your employees. So she said all the right things. Then she turned around and donated a bunch of money to nothing but Republicans. Still believe in the Milton Friedman bullshit. So yeah, I hope the UPS strike. I would say the people I do feel bad for if UPS strikes are like little mom and pop shops that sell stuff online, and people that rely on UPS for to deliver their medicine and medical devices. All right, and the medical devices, people are always going to have to find a quick workaround. I always just say if you order stuff from mom and pop and it gets there 3 weeks late because of the UPS strike, just be fine with it. That's how everybody can do solidarity, is not by giving that mom and pop bad reviews because some workers at UPS were trying to get a fair deal. We talked about the Black Plague earlier, so I wanted to shout out that Medieval Times out here in Orange County is still on strike after months. And a couple of days ago, IATSE members, IATSE is a showbiz sister union for a lot of the the electricians and editors and stuff, even costumers, et cetera. They took a guillotine out at the Medieval Times picket line, which is very on theme for Medieval Times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's God bless IATSE, man. If IATSE was striking right now in Hollywood, there'd be fatalities by now. The Teamsters too. They don't phone a fuck with the Teamster strike, man. They bring bats and bricks. All this the actors are doing is singing and dancing, which is its own type of violence if you watched any of the videos. So, no, that's a joke. I support anything that gets the studios back to the table. So let's talk about the SAG-AFTRA strike, because it's probably the most visible so far, because celebrities are involved and people like shooting videos of celebrities to put on the news. And I do want to say it seems like a pretty big fuck up for all the biggest media corporations in the world to take people who are valued for being good looking and good at communication skills and putting them in front of cameras to talk about labor. That might be a big mistake, because it's the most visible strike. It's going to get the most news coverage, but also it's going to get the most it's the one they're going to be the most determined to crush. Right. That's part of what scares me about this. A couple weeks ago, an anonymous Apple executive gave an interview to Variety, I think, one of the trade magazines. He was talking about how they needed to break the writers, because if they didn't, it'd be a bad example, i.e. a good example, to workers in other industries that Apple's invested in. They might want to unionize to get better lives. And by that, of course, he means the workers in the Foxconn factories that make iPhones in China that have suicide nets around the buildings because people jump off of them because they're required to sleep at work and shit. And fuck that guy. Fuck it to death.
Is that the same guy who said the thing about starving the writers out until they I know there's an anonymous source, but was it the same article or a separate thing? Another studio exec said that their plan was to wait the writers out until people started losing their homes and getting evicted from their apartments and stuff, because that would make them more likely to negotiate.
It was a different It was a different article. The Variety one was from 3 weeks ago. The Deadline article was from last Tuesday, because I read it as soon as we got done taping.
Yeah.
But so the fact it's ideological for them, it feels like larger stakes is about the whole economy, is what makes it feel so fucking dug in, because it doesn't make any sense from a financial value. Since the WGA strike began in early May, Disney's value is down $26 billion, Paramount's down $5.5 billion, and Warner Brothers is down $2.24 billion. Now that's a combined $34 billion. And all anyone's asking for is a small percentage of that. So it seems really fucking stupid, unless there's some sort of bigger ideological purpose here that doesn't have anything to do with money. But first, I'm going to talk about the old time Dickensian money aspect before we get to the futuristic dystopia aspect, which is artificial intelligence. A couple things. This isn't about rich folks, which is very hard to explain.
Right.
people seem to think there are only two categories of actors. You got your rich, famous superstars, and you got your like loser people who still work as baristas.
Right.
There's a huge middle class of actors. Like here's some numbers for you. It takes $20,000 a year to qualify for health insurance in SAG, and 87% of members don't qualify.
Yeah, it's the same. I almost got into that in the video I made today, but I didn't have time
Right.
and thought, whatever. But like, because I feel like people think that, if you like working in Hollywood to the level of being in one of these guilds or whatever, it's like, oh, they're fucking rich and famous and whatever anyway. But like the vast majority of people, and writers too, they're like, middle class or working class even or whatever. Like even the ones that do stuff, like I got a good friend who's like a long-term character actor who's been in all kinds of shit. And, he leads a very middle class lifestyle. He's not in a position where like he can just, be without work for months and months and just be totally fine and all that type of shit. You know what I mean? Like they're just regular people who are not, fat with cash or whatever. So.
Right. And then if you want to be an asshole about it, could be like, well, you should find another profession than something that's more stable. It's like, okay, but then the studios need actors like that. They need the murder of the week for an SVU.
Mm-hmm.
They need like the person who comes into like the hospital drama who's sick that week. Otherwise, the shows can't fucking function. So like, if you don't want people to be around to be in your business, then like, if you want to be around to be in your business and be available, you got to pay them. By the way, when people aren't working, it's not that they're not working. They're still auditioning, running around town, doing acting classes, writing their scripts, doing whatever. They're just not being paid to work, which is the thing I don't think people understand. You got to work a lot more than you're paid to work in a lot of businesses, including ours, whether you're, doing a lot of different shit. But but these are all, again, we talked about this with the writer's strike too. These are over the minimums. The deal with the studios is over the minimums. The rich actors you see are so far over scale, nothing in this deal will affect them at all. So a thing to remember when you see rich, successful people on the fucking picket lines is they're there in solidarity.
Right.
They're striking in solidarity to help broke people they remember being like when they were first starting out in the business. Yeah. I don't understand why that's so hard. Like the idea of like, I saw some people like, I think it was Hannah Montana. What's her name?
Miley Cyrus?
No, not Lizzie McGuire. The girl played Lizzie McGuire. I can't think of her name right now. Anyway, it's called Lizzie McGuire. Somebody quote tweeted a picture of her of like, these people are millionaires. Like, yes, she is. She's out there supporting other people.
Right.
It's like, why is this so foreign to people? Like Matt Damon, talking about the trade, like the Hollywood media being so in the tank for this.
Hillary Duff was Lizzie McGuire. Hillary Duff.
There you go. So Deadline had to put up this correction because what they did was they had an interview with, so the Oppenheimer premiere in London was happening right when the strike was called. And the cast got up and walked out in the middle of the movie as soon as they found the strike was called. Because they're not supposed to do any promotional materials. But they had an interview with Matt Damon on the red carpet beforehand where he had a two-pronged thought. The one was talking about how, yes, a strike would be disruptive. His company he runs with Ben Affleck has movies in production that's going to have to shut down. And he hopes it gets resolved quickly. Deadline cut it off there.
Right.
It sounds like he's complaining about the strike. Then he goes on to say, if our leadership is saying that the deal isn't fair, then we got to hold strong until we get a deal that's fair for working actors. It's the difference between having health care and not for a lot of actors. And we got to do what's right by them. Solidarity. The studios have been on so much clown shit that I can't even describe to you. I could walk through all the deal points, but like one of them was just funny to me. The guild proposed replacing there are arbitrators put in that are voted on by the studios and the guild to like resolve contract disputes. Some of them have died since the last ones were appointed. So SAG proposed replacing the dead arbitrators with alive ones. The AMTPT rejected that proposal. They want to keep the dead people as arbitrators.
Yeah.
So if you wonder why people are so fucking mad, it's like, and we'll skip down a little bit, Matt, because we're running out of time. This headline: cartoonishly evil Hollywood execs never miss an opportunity for bad PR. That's what the lose their homes quote Matt Trey was talking about. Some anonymous member of the AMPTP, which is the group that negotiates on behalf of the studios, told a reporter that movie executives' plan in negotiation was to, quote, let it bleed out until union members start losing their apartments and losing their houses. Mass evictions are a cruel but necessary evil. They think studios and streamers think next to financially strapped writers would go to the WGA leadership and demand they restart talks for what could be a very cold Christmas. Their PR strategy is to remove Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
They backtracked on that. The AMPTP came out the next day with a statement saying this person doesn't speak for us because what they said was a violation of labor law. you're required to negotiate in good faith. You can't walk
Right.
away from the table because you want to bleed somebody out economically. That's against the fucking law. Which brings us to this beautiful video from Hellboy Claymore from Sons of Anarchy himself, Ron Perlman. If you got that, man.
One thing before I get off this. The motherfucker who said we're going to keep this thing going until people start losing their houses and their apartments. Listen to me, motherfucker. There's a lot of ways to lose your house. Some of it is financial. Some of it is karma. And some of it is just figuring out who the fuck said that. And we know who said that. And where he fucking lives.
All right, cut it back. So I think he like I mean I love the energy. I would not. I'm not here. I'm not on this thing telling anybody to firebomb anybody's house. But it sort of points out the asymmetry in like economic violence. Like if you like force someone to be evicted by depriving them of access to being able to work, that's just considered economics.
Right.
But if I build a killdozer
tactic.
and drive it through your house, then that's a crime.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. I just want to briefly touch on the AI thing, even though we've talked too long and ran out of time. One of the dystopian things we wanted to do was the studios were seeking the right to scan and use an actor's image, quote, for the rest of eternity in exchange for 1 day's pay.
Right. That's so
I don't really
crazy, dude.
I don't really know why. These are background actors to start with, but they'll come for everybody else later. They scan people for video games already.
Right. Yeah. So like, they scan somebody to put for a background shot in a movie, and then after that, they can just digitally put that person into whatever scenario they want to forever. After that, it's why the latest season of Black Mirror had an episode in it that kind of like predicted that, like shortly right before this came out, which is kind of classic Black Mirror. But yeah,
it's called Jonah's Awful. It was great. My wife and I watched that specifically because I saw people referencing it in regard to this shit, and it was really, really well done. But it also it was a regular person who had a TV show made about them with their digital likeness, and I was like,
right.
That'll be the next thing is we'll all like you click on your Netflix terms of service and you'll be surrender your life rights and body image and you won't have any control over it in case you later become involved in a true crime thing. But like, can you imagine, like, say you're young and hot and happy with your body and you see a casting call in New Jersey to come dance in the Bada Bing on Sopranos, right? Mm-hmm. You do it. For the $200 you get scanned. 40 years later, you're watching a show with your grandkids.
Right.
You become more conservative, settle down. You see your naked body, 22-year-old body dancing in the background of a thing. And it's like, and you're like, it's like the same thing people say about sending nudes or whatever. Well, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, but people are 22 and they change their minds about shit later.
They also could like one of these background actors could eventually turn into Matt Damon or whatever. And now you've got you own the digital likeness of a huge superstar. So you can just put him into whatever project you want to and use that to sell tickets or whatever. And he has nothing to do with it. You can make him fucking eat a poop sundae or whatever the hell you want to do. Like,
and that's the only thing the only end game that sort of makes sense for them is because famously Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were both extras in Field of Dreams. They would have had their body scans. So 20 years later, Matt Damon is famous.
Right.
And he sees a movie coming out starring Matt Damon that he wasn't actually fucking in. So like that he didn't get paid for. So like this shit's fucking ridiculous. It's stupid. It's sick. I don't know how long it's going to go because it feels Sicilian, but I know that all these strikes have to win because going back to the Apple exec saying people are setting a bad example, i.e. a good example for being able to change your life through labor actions, including people that are dying in fucking iPhone factories. These strikes have to win. Otherwise the precedent would be sent that this type of shit loses and everybody loses money and all of our lives get more fucking miserable.
I'd like to think that we're at like a turning point finally. Where Bruce on YouTube says, "Stay strong, my union brothers." But yeah, I think that like people, everything with income inequality and all the horse shit and the worsening, housing and cost of living and all that, and how the dollar don't go as far as it used to, and wages haven't gone up, and all that shit that they've been doing, the trickle down lie and everything for years and years and years. It's just, I'd like to think it's finally reached a point where, and maybe COVID pushed it over that. The edge too, where people just aren't going to put up with that shit anymore going forward. I hope because if it continues going the other way, then we're fucked, dude. It's going to get truly dystopian.
All this is like,
or we're going to have to eat them all,
Yeah. This isn't like revolutionary. Like if the guild had given the actors everything they wanted, it would have taken their pay back to what they made in 2020. Right. Yeah. None of this is like communist revolution. It's just asking for something a little more fair.
Charmed Chaos says, appreciate the vibes, stream, support, staff, and patrons for making this possible. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate it. Quickly, again, if you want to see me do stand up live, thank God I can do that, by the way. Thank God for you guys for coming to the shows, because that's how I'm paying my bills at present. Go to TreyCrowder.com. Come and see me. You can watch the Special Damn Boy on YouTube. You can support this show on Patreon, weeklyskews.com/more, or go on Patreon and look me up. Either way, $5 a month, full-length bonus episodes, all that stuff. But most importantly, if you keep coming back every Skews Day, then we will too. And with that said, we'll see you next week.